Time to spin for our first movie of the month. And we have The Crow Salvation. So, let us, let me, let us check it out. So, The Crow Salvation. I'm very interested to see what this is. This is a donation reward for Venom, first of all. And we've obviously reacted to the first two Crow movies, The Crow and The Crow City of Angels. And so now we have this one. Once again, I believe this is a different actor taking on the role of the Crow. I don't know if it's a different character. I assume it is, because I think it was a different character between the first and the second movie. I really liked the first movie. The second movie, not so much. The second one was pretty bad. Iggy Pop was great in it, but otherwise it was not a good film. So I'm hoping this kind of goes back more to the roots of the first film, while still trying to push forward and do its own thing as well. So I don't know who's in this one. I don't know when this one came out. I don't know pretty much anything. Because the first one took place in Detroit, the second one in LA. I don't even know where this takes place comparatively. But like I said, I do really enjoy the first one, and so I'm hoping this kind of goes back into that kind of realm of things. I'm just excited to get to this, so we're going to check it out. And just as a reminder, all of our movie reactions this month will be randomized like this. For those of you who may have come into this and been like, what the hell is happening here? Yeah, all of the November movie reactions will be randomized because we can't do there's just not going to be the time and the availability at the end of this month to do a monthly movie week. So instead, we're doing this as a special. Since October and December, we couldn't do a monthly movie week either. We're just doing something special for this month because it's kind of in between two other holiday specials. So, yeah. So every single movie reaction this month will be randomized like this. So, could lead to some fun stuff. I put a bunch of options on the wheel. It's 42 options or so on the wheel. So it's we're just going to cut them back each time. I'm not going to add new ones in. And we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, let's get into The Crow Salvation and see how this movie compares to the first two. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this movie seems like there's a lot of people who really dislike this. Some people I saw were calling it the worst of the series. And that's wild to me. Because that would mean you're saying that this was worse than the second one, City of Angels, which is just an insane take, in my opinion. This was so drastically better than City of Angels. City of Angels is by far the worst. Now, this obviously is not on the level of the original film. That's undeniable. I'm not going to try to say it was like as good as the first. No, it wasn't. But it was much better than the second, and honestly, it was pretty fun. It was pretty entertaining. Um, I didn't have like a lot of the same problems I did with the second one, and while it definitely wasn't as like tonally correct as the first movie was trying to be, or you know what I mean, it wasn't as tonally consistent with the first film. It definitely felt more so than the second film. Also, apparently, this took place in Salt Lake City. If they mentioned that, I missed it. And the execution was 3 years after Alex went on to death row. So, a couple little details I might have just missed. It's possible. But yeah, so I thought the acting was all like pretty good here. Again, we didn't have like any Brandon Lee level performance like we had like with Brandon Lee in the first one. But it was definitely better than the second film, where the only actor who was actually good in that was weirdly enough Iggy Pop. In this, it's like everybody did a good job. All the villains, like the actors, like sold that. The main actor here, let me get up his name real quick. Eric Mabius, he did a good job. Um, and Kirsten Dunst was obviously great. Walton Goggins was great. It like just chock full of really good performances. Sorry, I don't know if you hear that siren. First, we're getting interrupted by like uh cutting of trees and stuff. Now we're getting interrupted by a siren. But yeah, it's like all the acting was good. The story seemed very similar to the first one rather than the second. And I think that was probably a smarter idea. Like a lot of people will say, and I, from what I read, did say that the story just felt like kind of a clone of the first, and it felt like it was just trying to retread the first movie again. But that's not inherently a bad idea because as long as it does it differently enough, and as long as it's done in a way that makes it still feel different and fresh from the first film, then it's fine. And honestly, I didn't feel like this was that close to where it was a problem. Like, yeah, there were definitely some notable similarities, but it also felt like its own thing. It felt more like carrying on the tradition with a different person. The idea of the vengeance and wanting revenge for you and your partner's deaths and everything. It's like the idea is still there, but it separates itself enough to make it more unique. The deaths were pretty good in this. I liked a lot of the more creative kills we got. I'm always a big fan of those in any kind of like film. Usually horror movies, but in this case, it works for an action thriller as well. And I thought the way the flashbacks were intermittently placed, sort of like in the first movie, was well done. There wasn't much of a surprise as to who the bad guys were, or I guess who the main villain was, the one with the scars. It's like the instant we saw the guy, it's like, oh, it's definitely got to be him, right? But I don't think it was trying to like surprise you with that. I mean, the fucking company is named Dirt. The fucking company that was like that everyone was like working for and stuff was named Dirt. It was kind of on the nose and intentionally so. It was meant to be a little comical, a little silly, a little over the top and ridiculous, and that's fine. A lot of people think that these kind of movies have to be like purely serious, and that's just not any fun. Like, that's just not fun to have them all be constantly super serious. A little bit of humor, a little bit of levity goes a long way. And having some ridiculousness can definitely give some good levity. Uh, I liked some of the topics and themes it touched on. From like touching on like the one sex worker. who Alex freed and was like, make something better of your life. You have your whole life ahead of you. You're super young. It's like, just go out there, make good decisions, live a good life. He's just trying to help her, and it's like, we don't know why she's working there and everything. It could be, again, a number of things, like I said in the reaction. But it's like he's genuinely trying to help her, and he sees her as a person. Where it's like every other shot of these sex workers is like, making a massive point of showing off their big ass titties, making a point of showing them like dancing around. But with this girl, we see like her breasts are actually more hidden behind her arms in the bar, and it shows her as a person first. And that's how Alex views her, as a person worthy of respect, worthy of care, worthy of like being treated like a fucking human being. So many sex workers out there, whether they're porn stars or they work at a sex club or are on OnlyFans or whatever else, so many sex workers out there are mistreated by even their fans, their proclaimed fans at least. Because these people see them as objects for their horniness and shit. Rather than, people who are trying to make a living and either doing this because they have to or do genuinely enjoy it, but, would have never, like, chosen it as their dream job and everything still. I like that we touch on that. I also like that we touch on, like, the sister having huge survivor's guilt and even being a little suicidal. Even though it didn't, like, focus on that as much as I wish it kind of did. I wish there was a little bit more with those themes. Um, at the same time, I do like that it still touched on it. I do like that we still got something with that because, yeah, survivor's guilt can absolutely make you suicidal. I've heard a lot of stories, and I've known people who have gone through that. And it's just, it's horrible to have to, like, live through losing a loved one. And you also have the themes of obviously the corrupt police and everything, which is, always a goodie. And just things like that. And even with the father, with Aaron and Lauren's father, being a more or less good guy who just got involved with really bad things and people and was unfortunately, like, killed in the end because of it, but also he unfortunately knew about his own daughter's murder and had to cover it up, even from his other daughter because of threats and shit. And it's like it gets pretty heavy. It gets pretty heavy and pretty dark, and I like the way it handles it all. Again, the first movie handles a lot of its themes and messages a lot better. Sure, I will give you that. But just because the first movie's better doesn't mean this one's automatically bad. Just because this isn't on the same level as the first doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's not as good as the original. That's literally it. But yeah, I think this was really enjoyable. I liked the cast. I liked the performances and the overall, like, vibes of the film. I feel like it just had the right idea and tone to it. And so overall, I'm just I'm just really happy. I had a good time, and I hope that this is not the end of good times for this franchise. Let me. Yeah, there is another one after this, and then I think after that is the remake. I think. Let me just make absolutely sure here. Yes, there's one more movie after this, and then there's the 2024 remake. There was also a late 90s television series that came out between City of Angels and Salvation. and a City of Angels tie-in video game for some reason. But yeah, so we got one more movie of the original runs to go, and then we'll get to the remake. I don't know how long it's going to take to get to those. It's always just kind of up in the air. And, this movie was chosen via randomized wheel anyway. So, who knows? But we will definitely get to the other movies in the future. So, that being said, just as a reminder, all movies this month will be randomized like this. So that means you're seeing this for Saturday. The Sunday movie will also be randomized, every single movie. And as such, the thumbnails are going to also, you'll have noticed with the thumbnail here, the thumbnails are going to also be kept secret. I'm not going to have like a specific thumbnail for each movie. I'm going to have like a special thumbnail made that's like, I did the same thing back when we did this before. But I'm a special thumbnail that's basically just going to say mystery movie or something like that on it. Um, just because like that way when you're watching along you get to kind of experience the wheel spin without already knowing what's going to pop up. It's kind of a little fun like that. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of The Crow Salvation? What did you think about it compared to the first movie or City of Angels? And obviously no spoilers for the next movie or the remake. But in the meantime, thank you as always so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and if not, I hope you at least enjoyed my reaction to it. So that being said, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.